Welcome back, America, to this special report, The Battle for Border Security, sponsored by our partner, Heritage Action for America. Our next guest tonight, well, he's been a sheriff on the front lines of Arizona, less than 100 miles from the southern border in Pinal County. And despite the distance, he has dealt with illegal immigration, the fentanyl crisis, human trafficking, and so much more as the Mexican drug cartels continue the control of our border. Sheriff Mark Lamb joins us now to talk about all that America's communities are suffering from an open border. Great to have you back on, Sheriff.
Great to be here, John. Thank you for having me.
It is cliche now almost to say that every community is a border community, but it is really a truism now. And there isn't a community in America that isn't affected by the border crisis. You see it day in and day out. I know the fentanyl poisonings, the crime. How bad has it gotten in the last year as Joe Biden's border policy has become more obvious to American public?
You know, it's really been in the last 2 years, and the last year obviously has gotten even worse. It doesn't seem to be getting any better with this administration. We've seen a 610% increase in drug seizures in our county, fentanyl. We've seen a 477% increase in a 460% increase in pursuits involving human smuggling, a 300+ increase in traffic stops involving human smuggling. We just had 20 pounds of cocaine we got last week. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. And I've been saying from the beginning, what happens in our backyard today will be in your front yard tomorrow. And what I mean by that is when we ask people that we stop, where do you plan on going? None of them ever say Arizona. Every one of them mentions a different state throughout the union. And so that's what concerns us. And we try to stop it and do the best we can to keep the fentanyl and all these folks that are coming here illegally. We try to keep them and that human trafficking aspect, we try to keep it out of the other states.
Do you, from the many, many illegal aliens that you and your team get to interview every day, any doubt that the drug cartels are in control of the border and the flow of illegal migration to this country?
No, there's no doubt whatsoever. Look, these guys control every aspect of it down on the border. Anybody that comes across is paying a toll to the cartels. We had we stopped a group the other day, and it was, sorry about that, my dog in the background.
That's all right.
We stopped a group the other day, and that group had 3 people in it and a child. One of them was from Nicaragua, and she had paid $13,000 to the cartels, and she did it on credit, which means that she was either going to pay through sex or she was going to pay through work. Whatever it was, she was ultimately going to pay that fee to the cartels.
It's just heartbreaking. Also, there seems to be a second partner, and a lot of times it goes unreported in the news media, but the NGOs, the nonprofit organizations, often funded with American tax dollars. They kind of complete the cycle of human trafficking by assuring that they can move people once they get into the country to other destinations. How much does that encourage illegal migration?
Well, it encourages it a ton. This is a huge industry. It went from $500 million to $13 billion, and the cartels are making so much money off of the human bodies, and they're recruiting young kids. 16-year-olds. We've seen as young as 12-year-olds, but a lot of kids and people under the age of 18, and they're paying them thousands of dollars per body to come down to places like my county or Cochise County or Yuma County, pick these folks up and then transport them back to Phoenix. These are the guys we're having pursuits with. And all of the messaging from this government, like you said, John, is just encouraging people to come to this country. And there's no consequences for coming. They're giving them court dates for 2 to 5 years from now. Why would they not come? Like, that's what's encouraging people to come. And this is what I keep standing up against and fighting against this government, saying, stop saying, make a definitive statement and say, do not come here. The only way you can come here is if you go through the legal process.
Yeah, you have been a cogent voice, and so many Americans have learned about the border crisis firsthand from your great work. Now you're looking to make a move into politics, into the United States Senate. Tell us what motivated that and what sort of solutions you're beginning to develop at a policy level that you can bring to Washington.
You know, I think the easiest, you're right. I realize there's only so much I can do on the state level. I love being the sheriff, and we've done a lot of work, and we continue to do work every day to stop the flow of drugs and humans and human trafficking into this country. But I realize that this fight has to now be taken to the federal level. We need people that understand this border crisis on a deep level, that understand the rule of law on a deep level, which is why I've thrown my hat into the Senate race, and hopefully people will come support me at sherifflambforsenate.com. It takes a lot of money to run these races, so please come support me. And if you live in Arizona, sign my petition. But what we're going to do is we can start by getting back to the Trump era policies, and we can start by enforcing the law. We have laws on the books, and as soon as we start enforcing those, I can assure you that it will start to curtail the flow of people that come into this country. And then we've got to treat the cartels for the terrorists that they are. We need to declare them terrorists and start treating them as such, and that'll give us the ability to go after them and impose our will on them as instead of them imposing their will on us. We've got to get them to fear the American people and the American government again, but right now they just don't.
Yeah, the House Republicans have put together a lot of the great ideas you've been talking about into a package called the Secure the Border Act. The House have passed that already. If it were to get to the Senate and get through the Senate and to Joe Biden, will it have a positive effect on our country?
Well, it absolutely would have a positive effect. I just don't know that Joe Biden's going to sign it. I think this administration has consistently made moves that show that they want open borders. They said so, John. He said back when he was campaigning, and they continue to say it. They're trying to change the face of America. Joe Biden said he wanted to reinvent America, and they're doing that. And the way they do that is by changing the demographics in this country. They're breaking our systems. They're flooding our communities. They're putting people on the streets. They're overwhelming our welfare systems. And they're increasing crime in communities. They're increasing fentanyl poisonings in communities, and they don't seem to care. They don't seem to be making any moves to stop any of that. And so it's clear that they're all for this, and ultimately they're undermining the rule of law by opening the borders and by not securing it. And this is one of the things articulated by the founding fathers in the fourth article, and they said it's their job to defend our borders.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And right now, there's very little defense. We got about a minute left. I want to talk a little bit about the national security implications. Lots of terrorists or people with terrorist connections have been apprehended. Lots of criminals let into the country. A lot of times people think, oh, it's just families and their children looking for a better life. But the people crossing the border often come from countries and send men, like from China, that clearly have intentions other than just getting a family into the country. How bad are the national security implications of the people you see crossing the border every day?
John, I think that the border security issue is the primary threat to the American people right now. Just to give you an example, Yuma County a couple of weeks ago had 2,800 people they apprehended from 57 different countries. A lot of these people are coming from China. They're coming from Mauritania, which is a little small country in Africa, which has been known to have terrorists. They're coming from Ukraine and Russia and Cuba and all these different places. And we saw from 9/11, it only takes a handful of people with bad intentions to really wreak some havoc on the American people. And what we have allowed over the last 2 years is an exorbitant amount of people to come into this country, many of whom do not love America and would wish to do harm on America. You're seeing a video right now with some of those people coming through. And this is the primary threat to American people. And then above and beyond that, you've got the fentanyl and all the drugs that are killing American people at a tremendous rate, at 100,000 plus people a year. And that is more effective than any war we've ever had.
Yeah, chemical warfare with China assisting the Mexican drug cartels, an enormous threat to this country. Sheriff Lamb, we are always honored to have you on the show. You always give us a healthy dose of reality, even when people in Washington sometimes are trying to avoid it. Great honor to have you on and getting such a good update.
Thank you, John. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more conversation with a policy expert that has his ear to the ground, listening to what the grassroots of America is saying. Ryan Walker joins us right after these brief messages.